Good morning, Patriots. It is December 16th, and Donald Trump is still by far not even close the best president in American history. We got a lot of news to cover, and we're going to jump right into it because the FBI, to give Congress some bombshell memos warning that Biden DOJ didn't have probable cause to raid Donald Trump's home. And this one could very well spiral out of control. So for more than 3 years, Americans were told a very simple story. Donald Trump was raided because he broke the law. The FBI had no choice, you guys. Probable cause. It was all rock solid. Anyone who questioned it was spreading conspiracy theories. That story, as you can imagine, just like all the other narratives that Democrats concoct because it's all a bunch of hocus pocus BS, is now collapsing. Because this week, Congress is about to receive internal FBI emails that tell a very different version of events. And one the public was never supposed to see in the first place, because once you see it and you start connecting all the dots, well, the Democrats are caught in a lie and a narrative spin once again. So let's look into what's about to drop here. According to reporting from Just the News, which is on your screen, Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel are preparing to turn over internal FBI communications to the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. These emails are expected to be delivered as early as today. And here's the headline that matters. The FBI warned the Biden Justice Department that it did not believe probable cause existed to raid Donald Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. I'm going to say that again. Oh boy. The FBI warned the Biden DOJ that it did not believe probable cause existed to raid Donald Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. You see a very similar theme here in terms of Crossfire Hurricane, where, hey, we don't really have enough information to say that the Russians are actually meddling in our elections or doing really anything of the sort. And what do? Well, they concoct some narrative, some hocus pocus BS story that Donald Trump was colluding with the Russians, even though you had FBI intelligence assets, these individuals saying, yeah, we don't have any of that, Mr. President. We don't have any of that, CIA director. None of that, but they push it anyways. The FBI own Washington field office said that. Now, there was the raid. And if you all remember, because we should do a little bit of a rewind here, in August of 2022, armed FBI agents executed a search warrant on the home of the former president. And that is something that's never happened in American history. The justification, what were we all told? Alleged mishandling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Speaking of Crossfire Hurricane, some people believe that that was the actual true intention of the raid itself, was to find the Crossfire Hurricane's documents, because those documents reveal all the shady stuff that the Democrat Party did, specifically the Obama administration. The raid immediately became a political earthquake. Trump was portrayed as a national security threat. The media declared no one is above the law, except Democrats, right? But no one is above the law. Democrats insisted the case was, it's airtight, it's sealed, it's ironclad. But behind the scenes, man, the FBI was raising red flags, just like they were with Crossfire Hurricanes, just like they were with Operation Arctic Frost, all that stuff. It's actually really remarkable how everything continues to overlap and just how corrupt that administration was. And Democrats, again, I don't understand why they want to turn a blind eye to it. Look, Donald Trump has done some stupid stuff. I'm not going to turn a blind eye to it. I'm not beholden to the guy. I'm a registered Republican, but as I mentioned, I'm a fiscal conservative, man. I'm not beholden to any politician. They're there as a tool, as a mechanism to carry out the work on behalf of the American people and what I elected them to do. I elected them to represent me and the values and ideas and the actions that I want from them. And guess what? If they don't want to do it, I ain't voting for them again. It's plain and simple. We don't believe probable cause exists. According to sources who have direct knowledge to the emails, the FBI's Washington field office explicitly stated that they, quote, did not believe probable cause had been established, end quote, for the raid. Oh, it all. By the way, where was this before? Why did we not have whistleblowers before? Because that matters. Because probable cause isn't a technicality. It's the constitutional threshold that protects Americans from politically motivated searches. And if they could do this to a former president on this kind of level by just concocting BS stories, which is very, very totalitarian, what's stopping them from doing it to you? And yet, without any of the sort of evidence, the Biden DOJ proceeded anyways, regardless of the fact that they said, yeah, you know, hey, we don't really, we got nothing on the guy. Yeah, same thing. Same thing with Crossfire Hurricane and Arctic Frost. Both same exact thing. Do you notice how much stuff and BS they just concoct against Donald Trump? Fake news. Correct. So what this confirms is that it wasn't a rumor anymore. For years, it was whispered that some FBI agents opposed the raid. Concerns were raised internally, and DOJ leadership pushed forward regardless of what the professionals were saying. Now we're learning those concerns weren't just vocalized verbally, but they were documented in writing. Oh, here we go, baby. This wasn't an internal debate. This wasn't hindsight disagreement. This was a pre-raid warning. And now we're going to enter in a guy that you know all too well. You're going to have heard this name before. Jack Smith. Y'all remember that guy, that weasel? The special counsel? Just months after the raid, Biden's DOJ appointed Jack Smith as a special prosecutor. If you recall, Smith was the one who inherited the Mar-a-Lago documents case and later issued 2 federal indictments against Donald Trump. Those cases dominated the headlines, framed Trump as a criminal, right? He's a fugitive. He's terrible. You got to go after him. And then were repeatedly cited during the 2024 election. So we've heard it enough. I don't need to rehash what all those things were. And now the news was a while ago that they've all been dismissed. Because Republicans argue that they were never about justice. It was about all political timing. If we could frame the narrative, because people are stupid and Democrats know that people are stupid, they'll believe in it. It doesn't matter if the truth comes out later. I mean, they'll go in and, you know, fix stuff and tie some loose ends later on, but they'll just bury it 40 paragraphs down and never actually tell anybody if there was a correction. But there was. They did their due diligence is what they did. After they already concocted an entire narrative and people are too stupid to change their minds and they're not going to believe when the truth actually comes out because the truth was the falsehoods was the truth. Then you had Congress stepping in. The House Judiciary Committee has now subpoenaed Jack Smith for a closed-door deposition scheduled for, Tuesday? Tomorrow. Chairman Jim Jordan made the purpose crystal clear. Quote, so what he said, the committee believes you possess information vital to oversight of the prosecutions of President Donald J. Trump, end quote. Smith's attorney has confirmed he will comply. And here's the key detail. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this because this is important. The FBI emails are being turned over before Smith testifies. And that isn't by accident, by the way. They might be trying to catch this guy lying. Which, as you can imagine, Democrats are scrambling, right? Ahead of Smith's deposition, House Democrats are attempting to force the release of a classified version of Smith's final report. Oh. Well, why would they want to do that? Oh, don't worry. We'll get to the constitutional implication of all this. Don't you worry. Trump's legal team is currently in court trying to block that release. Why? Because if the FBI warned DOJ the raid lacked probable cause, then everything that followed the raid, the indictments, the media narrative, the hocus pocus, well, that all becomes suspect. And there's a constitutional implication to all this. It's not about liking Donald Trump. This is about something much more nefarious, dangerous. I kind of hinted at it before. A Justice Department proceeding with a raid on a political opponent after being warned by its own investigators, its own people, that the constitutional standard wasn't met. If that can happen to a former president, I'm going to say it again. It can happen to anybody and all of us in the chat. And that's freaky deaky. So that whole idea of getting those emails beforehand, I think, is to try to catch what's his face, Jack Smith, lying in a deposition. And Democrats want that out so he's able to prepare for his deposition so he's not caught in a lie. And the real scandal is this. For years, Americans were told to trust the process, kind of like that idea of trust the science, trust the process. Well, we're now learning that that process is a bunch of doo-doo because the FBI raised objections. You nut jobs over at the DOJ during the Biden administration ignored them. The raid moved forward anyways. Indictments followed. Elections happened. And only after did the truth begin to surface. Oh, it's convenient. That seems to happen quite a bit, doesn't it, you guys? Just a little bit. It was a choice, is what it was. And as these emails hit Congress, and as Jack Smith sits down under oath, one thing becomes clear. The Mar-a-Lago raid wasn't just controversial. It may have been constitutionally unjustifiable from the start. And that changes everything, baby. And I wanted to keep you guys up to date on that because that is big news. Oh, yeah, baby. That is big, big news. It's good to see everybody in the chat, by the way. When I'm looking over here, I'm looking at all of you guys reading the chat. Exactly, Chris. Nobody is above the law. Absolutely. Not a single person. Other than Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. All those people. All those silly people. So that was that story. We also have more updates regarding, well, just the news in general, but also a bunch of news regarding Australia, because we have Bondi Beach massacre of Jews with more gun laws that don't stop shootings is the title of this next story. But if you could hit that thumbs up button, I greatly appreciate it. It does help support the show. Wouldn't ask you to do it if it didn't do anything. It really, really does. So thank you to everybody over at Rumble, YouTube, Kick, everywhere for hitting that thumbs up button. It really does help support the show. Well, sure we get that there for you. There was a tragedy that struck Bondi Beach. Now, we broke that down yesterday. We're not necessarily going to break it down again, but there were at least 15 people that were unfortunately deleted. I can't say certain words on YouTube, so that's why I use the word deleted. There's dozens more wounded in this massacre. And as you imagine, the attack has been labeled anti-Semitic terrorism by Australian authorities. But what we talked about yesterday as well wasn't just the massacre itself, but was the idea that they want to implement more gun laws. This is already one of the most restricted countries on planet Earth in terms of owning a firearm. So what was Australia's response was they wanted more gun control. The National Cabinet immediately announced plans to, and I'm going to read you this because this is the kind of the updates, okay? The National Cabinet said this. They want to renegotiate the National Firearms Agreement. They want to limit how many firearms someone can own. Oh, you're going to so you just can't go do this again, I guess. Even so, if you have one firearm, which is all you need, by the way, that's what's going to stop this massacre. So you're going to limit law-abiding citizens from owning the amount of firearms. You know, the people that follow the law, the rules, that are actually normies. Yeah, they're the ones that always get screwed. They're going to replace lifetime licenses with short-term renewals. Oh, that's going to fix it. Yeah, that's gonna fix everything. Yeah. No, that's gonna stop this stuff from happening again, you guys. Yep, you just replacing those lifetime licenses. Oh, yeah, that's gonna stop people from doing something criminal. Mm-hmm. Restrict gun ownership to citizens only. Okay. I mean, that seems reasonable. expand a national firearms registry. Oh boy. You want to know why a lot of Second Amendment advocates are against something like that? Well, when your government goes usurpacious, and it's like Santa Claus, checking the list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's gonna lose their rights. That one is a big deal, folks. That is not good, because now they know where you live. Yeah, Debbie Doo, you have 3 firearms. You have a Glock 17 Gen 3. You have an AR-15. You have a Mauser. Something, it's... And then they're just going to come take them away. You don't want a registry, because now the government knows what guns you own and what guns you don't own. So like I said, when governments go usurpacious, which, by the way, that's what history tells us is going to happen, they're going to take your guns. By the way, if that whole rhyme that I made up with the top of my head about checking the list twice, you're going to lose your rights, if that doesn't deserve a like and subscribe, I don't know what does. I thought that was incredible. For 6:16 in the morning, and we're pulling stunts like that here on the show? What? Incredible. What else? They're going to increase intelligence-based licensing reviews. I have no idea what that means. But if I was to just, sum this up, that just means more paperwork, more restrictions, and more soft targets, really. It doesn't solve anything. Thanks, Candy. Thank you. I knew you guys would like that one. I'm going to take a little wet my whistle moment. All right, Australia is already disarmed, by the way. So here's what never gets said clearly enough. Australia already ran the gun control experiment. And you want to know something? It didn't work. But because these people are insane, not everybody, just the people that keep proposing the same insane ideas, expecting a different result, here we are. After the 1996 Port Arthur massacre, semi-automatic firearms and shotguns were banned. Over 1 million legally owned firearms were confiscated and destroyed. Law-abiding citizens were disarmed. Come here. Not criminals. Constant theme. Well, what about self-defense, Brad? Not a valid reason to own a gun in Australia. I mean, let that sink in. If you are attacked, the same law assumes the government will protect you when it can't. There's a lot of conversation about the hero that disarmed the terrorist on why he just didn't shoot him. Do you want to know why? I know why, because I live in the state of California, even though that's Australia. The same psychos that run that area run my state. These progressive lefties that are idiots. Do you want to know why he probably didn't shoot him? I'm speculating, by the way. I could totally be wrong. It's because he could be held in some manner and prosecuted for shooting the guy. If you turn your back and start running away in the state of California, even though that you're being armed, you could have been shot yourself. You could be prosecuted and you could be thrown in prison for years, decades. So if that guy would have shot him, very well could have been thrown in prison for years, if not decades. And I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm as serious as a heart attack. So did all this stop mass shootings? Despite the bans, Australia saw gun violence at Monash University in 2022. They saw a rise in illegal firearm trafficking. They also saw a rise in growing use of the 3D printed guns, those ghost guns. And now you have Bondi Beach. As NRA board member Willis K. Lee put it, quote, gun-free zones don't work. They didn't work in Australia. They didn't work at Brown University. They don't work anywhere. Correct. And he's right. Because gun laws don't stop people who are already willing to murder strangers. I know it's common sense, you guys. I really do. Common sense has gone out the window. We just have to accept that. But what we don't have to accept, and I know it's talking about Australia, we don't have to accept our government trying to impose stricter gun laws on us, because it turns out that word infringe that we covered yesterday And the actual definition of the word means that you are not allowed to limit me in any capacity. But they'll do it anyways. Because they're commies. Some of them are socialist. And some of them are just jerks. It's amazing that I know a lot of Second Amendment advocates that own firearms, and a lot of them, I've never seen them go and do something horrible. Never even heard them talk about doing something horrible. Matter of fact, their firearms have never walked off themselves and started deleting people. It's not a firearm issue. It's a crazy person issue. And I'm going to say it. It's a religious issue. Because if you look at the list of a said religion, checking the list, don't need to check it twice because these people gonna find out the religion is the one. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I think we all know what we're speaking of here. You have American contrast where you have two countries, two directions that's happening. So while Australia tightens the noose, the United States is moving in the opposite direction. Because we got Donald Trump. And if you know anything about Donald Trump's son, Don Jr., he's a huge Second Amendment advocate and he loves hunting. Now, the Second Amendment isn't for hunting. You can use it for that. No, it's about self-defense. And if your government goes usurpacious or a foreign government were to invade, you can protect you, your family, and your property. And by the way, you want to know where they got that from? That's actually from natural law. They derived that whole idea of you being able to protect yourself, your family, and your property from natural order, the way that God created things. I don't need to give a history lesson here, but for some reason, you kind of have to at some point because people don't want to actually go figure out, well, how'd they come up with these rights in the first place? Like, where'd they come up with that Second Amendment right? Was it just because of the crown and the monarchy? Was it just because they were worried like about the English coming back or something, or the Native Americans? Yes, there's an element of that. It's not hard to just go read a book. I'm not saying you got to read the whole history of the country, but at least like go dip your foot into something. By the way, I just want to point out it's never been easier to get your questions answered than ever before. When you have ChatGPT, Grok, Atlas, I mean, anything now, you don't even have to go read a book. You could just say, hey, how did the founding fathers come up with the Second Amendment? And just dive a little bit deeper. But you want to know what we're experiencing, and we'll get to it in a moment. People don't even know how to ask questions anymore because it turns out almost 30% of American adults don't know how to read. Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later today if we have time. You're like, what? Yeah. They can read words, but they can't understand them. And the words that they can read is very limited. Now, some people might say, well, Brad, you mess up on the show all the time. Yeah, well, it's also 6 a.m., okay? And I work full time. And I can't read, okay? All right, where were we? Go back to my show notes, to reading my show notes. The Supreme Court's Bruen decision reaffirms something fundamental. The Second Amendment protects the right to carry firearms outside the home. Gun laws must align with historical tradition, and governments don't get to invent restrictions based on fear, which is so interesting because they kind of do that with abortion, where they had these emanation of these penumbras. By the way, if you haven't got my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America, I talk about it in the last chapter, where the Supreme Court basically just made up certain rights that literally don't exist. And please don't, that's not my thinking, by the way. Even the own clerks of the Supreme Court, justices of the time, said, yeah, they completely made this up and it's considered bad law. And I'm talking about abortion. And I just bring that up because it says here, governments don't get to invent restrictions based on fear. No. Hello. They've come up with stuff all the time. What do you mean? Now, it's a silly analogy, but it does cross over in some way, shape, or form. Under the Trump administration, DOJ civil rights enforcement is backing Bruen. States infringing on gun rights are being sued, thank God, because now I got California Gavin Newsom banning the use of the Glock. Starting January, you're not even going to be able to sell or buy a Glock because the criminals can make it automatic. They can modify it. So the people, by the way, the Glock is a workhorse. It's an amazing firearm, a little unsafe in my opinion, probably one of the most unsafe firearms out there in terms of handguns, but it doesn't matter. It's not the discussion for this. The thing's a workhorse, dude. It's a reliable firearm. You could go through it. You don't even got to clean it very often. You should. And it's great. But because criminals do criminal behavior, it's the people that don't do criminal behavior are the ones that always get punished. The Constitution is being treated as a limit, not a suggestion. The real failure here, the part that Australian leaders seem very desperate to avoid, and it's very typical in the left for them to do this. The problem wasn't the guns. The problem was anti-Semitism. That's the problem. And a specific faith wanting to go out and do very criminal, heinous things. Since October 2023, anti-Semitism incidents in Australia have surged over 300%. Synagogues have been vandalized, Jewish schools attacked, communities threatened. The Bondi Beach massacre didn't just come out of nowhere, you guys. It wasn't just like, oh my gosh, where'd this come from? There's always red flags everywhere. The FBI on our end talks about it all the time. And that was from Christopher Wray. And you know, if Christopher Wray, Biden's former FBI director, was saying there's red flags that are worse than 9/11 here in the United States, can you imagine what Australia looks like? Can you imagine what these other countries like Europe looks like? The red flags just have to be astronomical. Not to mention, but shout out to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino for keeping me safe in California, because they just thwarted a massive terrorist attack in LA and Orange County, where I live, by the way. So I've literally seen the product, and I'm getting goosebumps. I am seeing the product of my vote in action, because it personally very well could have saved my life. And I mean that in all literal sense. Orange County is not that big in terms of where you would do something like this, and I very well could have been there on New Year's. So thank you, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, for keeping me, my family, my friends safe, because that one hit close to home. The government's double standard. Just months before the attack, you had the Australian authorities, specifically the government, release a sweeping report on Islamophobia, complete with new bureaucracies. They have training mandates. That's going to fix a lot of things. Hate speech frameworks, policy recommendations. But after Jews are murdered in public, the shift in focus turns to gun ownership. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu didn't mince words, accusing Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of fueling anti-Semitism by signaling recognition of Palestinian state while Jewish Australians were under threat. And I think it's a little bit of a conflation. There is obviously an element of truth to that, but I don't think by them recognizing a Palestinian state that kind of fueled it. I'm sure it did in some way, shape, or form, but it seems like a connection that's kind of stretched in my opinion. But I do think that the Jewish Australians were under threat, and I think a lot of Jews just naturally in the United States are under threat as well. And the criticism hit a nerve because it landed. And the hard truth of it is, and Australia is about to learn, again, what history already taught everybody. Disarming the public doesn't stop terrorists. It doesn't stop hate. It doesn't stop violence. All it does is it ensures that when the next attack comes, and it will, by the way, because there's psychos everywhere and there's no insane asylums, and we just allow this stuff to happen, and people get to run around like idiots. And by the way, in our country, you just get to commit crimes and be let loose in some states like California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois with J.P. Pritzker. The victims are going to be helpless. Why? Because you can't protect yourself. You know, if all those, just think about if one person out of the thousands was able to conceal and carry in Australia, I'm not saying that attack would have stopped. I think it would have stopped quicker. And I think a lot more people would have been saved. You know, that guy wouldn't have had to tackle that guy and wrangle the firearm from him. Guess what? If that guy was conceal and carry, he would have been able to put a few rounds into that guy's back and head before he ever even saw him. Every time this happens, we hear the same stupid lie. If only there was fewer guns. Doesn't Bondi Beach literally prove the opposite of that? That when government obsesses over controlling tools instead of confronting ideology, they fail the people that they claim to protect. Australia didn't lose safety because it had too many guns. It lost safety because it refused to defend its citizens and instead chose symbolism over reality. And the rest of the world should pay attention to this because that's what they're trying to do in other countries. And by the way, they've been trying to do it in our country for quite some time. It just turns out it's not feasible because we have too many guns. It's horrible what happened to those people. Nothing's going to change. And for some reason, they think things are going to change. I don't know why, you guys. It's a great question. It very well is a great question that will never get answered. All righty, let's see what else we have in the news here for all of you. By the way, thank you to everybody that's joining me each and every morning. We do this each and every morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on the Bald Brad Show. So shout out to all of you for always joining us to get your news and everything that's trending in terms of the headline or headlines, I suppose. And we also have Dark MAGA today. We're not going anywhere just now, but we also have Dark MAGA at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for all of you. Sea-Dog says, good morning, Brad, sir. I appreciate the news. Thank you. I appreciate you. Angel says counterterrorism individuals have warned of terror cells in the U.S. Yes, up to over 1,000 of them. Trained and operative, by the way. Rob Stewart says common sense is not so common, Brad. Well said, Rob. Jeff says the left has become so radicalized where I don't think there is no turning back to reality for them. Totally agree. But the Nexus to Sanity thing was, let's rehabilitate these people and we'll put them back into the public. That's the next movement. All right, well, we got some updates here with Donald Trump and BBC. I always try to keep you guys updated on previous news stories that we covered. And this isn't just about Donald Trump. Some are saying that this is it's all about media power. Narrative laundering, pushing out a message and making sure that you're controlling that message. And whether global news organizations can still fabricate reality, or whether that era is finally ending with Donald Trump. And I hope it is, because this week, Donald Trump did something no modern president has ever seriously attempted. And he's suing one of the most powerful state-backed media institutions in the world. And he's suing them for $5 billion. Oh, baby, can you feel the money? What Trump is actually suing over. And it's important to get, I guess, precise in this, because any lawsuit comes down to precision. Trump isn't suing the BBC because they criticized him, which is what the left keeps saying. He's not suing them because they're left wing or they have different ideology. He's not suing them because he just doesn't like them. He's suing because, according to the complaint itself, they doctored his January 6th speech, which we covered in the past, to fabricate a call for violence that he never made. People still believe that. I have done and engaged with people. So I've done videos on this. I've engaged with people like there's fine people on both sides hoax. They still believe that. They still believe that the Border Patrol agents were whipping migrants. It's crazy what the media has done to people, but it's even more crazy that the people are so stupid that they don't actually go verify what somebody tells them. They just believe it. But it's interesting because when Donald Trump tells them something, they don't believe it, but then they'll go verify what he said, but they don't do that with their own media outlets or their friends or family. It's really, or some rando dude that they listen to on the internet. By the way, I don't expect you guys to believe anything that I say. My hope is that, over the years of doing this, there is an element of trust, but that would be stupid to just take everything that I say as truth and not go and verify it yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, granted, I try to show you the proof in the articles. Now I'm just posting the article itself and then just doing the show notes. But before, you can go read this yourself, which is why I have it on the prompter. You see the Daily Wire there. You have the title that you can go put in yourself. As I'm talking about it, you could skim through it. Not that you would, but it's that insane that people are like, oh yeah, I know. I listen to some random dude on the internet. I'm just going to listen to everything that he says. Like, what? I mean, it's fine, but you should at least, if I say something kind of off, you should be like, well, that's a little weird. I'm gonna look that one up. The lawsuit alleges this regarding the BBC. Let me make sure I get this off my screen really quick. There we go. The lawsuit alleges that it spliced together two unrelated portions of Trump's speech, which, by the way, it did. How do we know? Because we watched it and we saw it with our own eyes and listened to it with our own ears. The clip was separated by 55 minutes. It edited them to appear continuous, and it removed Trump's explicit calls for protesters to, quote, and this is important, act peacefully and patriotically. peacefully. The left loved to leave that one out. And then broadcasted that version as historical fact. That ain't framing, man. That's not just bias. That's some manufacturing going on. And why is this different from kind of all those other media spins that we see that's relentless each and every day in the news? Every news outlet edits. I mean, that's not really the issue, because you can't expect somebody to sit down for 55 minutes and watch a whole segment like that. The issue is editing that reverses the meaning of what somebody said. That's the issue. According to Trump's legal filing, the BBC didn't just shorten the speech. They rearranged words, they spliced non-sequential sentences, removed context intentionally, and created the impression of a direct call to violence. And here's the key phrase from the lawsuit. Quote, a false, defamatory, deceptive, disparaging, inflammatory, and malicious depiction. That language matters because defamation law hinges on intent, and intent is very, very hard to prove in the legal system. And BBC owns internal documents, their own internal documents may actually prove it, because the internal memo was something that kind of blew this whole thing wide open. This case exploded internally before it ever even reached the courtroom. An internal BBC memo written by former editorial standards advisor Michael Prescott was leaked to the press, and the memo stated plainly that the documentary mischaracterized the sitting president of the United States. It even violated BBC's editorial standards, and it created a false narrative. And as you'd imagine, the fallout was immediate because 2 BBC executives resigned. They weren't reassigned, not took responsibility. They just resigned. That doesn't happen unless leadership knows the situation is indefensible. And then the BBC apologized. Here's where things get legally dangerous for the BBC. They apologized, and they didn't just do it quietly. They did it publicly, and they admitted the edit created a mistaken impression, made it appear Trump called for violence, and misled viewers into believing the speech was continuous. And by the way, they also confirmed the documentary will never be rebroadcasted, and it has been pulled in its existing form. That apology may read very gentle, but in court, it's an admission of harm. At least some would take that as. And $5 billion isn't just a random number. This is a president law. So people, or lawsuit, I guess I should say, to be more grammatically clear. People hear 5 billion and they kind of laugh, but they shouldn't, because it's not about collecting a check. It's about deterrence, discovery, depositions, internal emails, editorial chains of command. Trump isn't trying to bankrupt the BBC here. He's trying to force sunlight into how narratives are constructed. And this was, something that he started was fake news. And he's going to expose these outlets for what they are. I mean, it's no shock to us, but maybe for some people on the left, it might be. Because if this case survives dismissal, and by the way, it very well might actually, it opens a door to something the media has avoided for decades, and that would be accountability. And that terrifies the legacy media. If Trump wins, or even forces discovery, and that's always the people's favorite part, this case doesn't end with the BBC. This is going to have its tentacles going out to CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, international state broadcasters as well. I mean, every outlet that spliced speeches, removed disclaimers, altered sequencing, and manufactured emotional beats, which they freaking love to do because they're fear mongers. This lawsuit challenges the editing immunity the press has relied on since television freaking began. And now they're finally coming to a head with our great president, Donald J. Trump. I love the guy. He's great. He's a good guy. I know him. I don't really know him, but he's great. January 6th in the narrative economy. Why this matters so much. January 6th isn't just a date anymore or something stupid that happened, because it was stupid. The establishment, the media, the entertainment industry, the Democrat Party, they treat this as an industry. I mean, entire careers, if you think about it, were built on a single narrative that Trump incited violence, his words caused a riot. Context didn't matter. But if a court establishes that media editing created that perception, everything downstream becomes suspect. Congressional hearings, impeachments, DOJ investigation, all built on clips. And that's all what we saw from the past. And the media's last line of defense is this. What they're going to argue is that it was an honest mistake. Oh, there's no malicious intent. We're protected by free speech. Public figure standard. But Trump's lawyers are too smart because they're making a different claim. They're saying this wasn't negligence. It was patterned behavior. And that has a long-standing practice of manipulating speeches, fabricating emotional arcs, and editing to imply criminality. That's a much harder defense. So they're going freaking into the paint with the BBC here. And Donald Trump is about to expose all of it. And that discovery phase, unless they settle, is going to happen. Oh boy, is it going to happen. They don't know what to do, man. They're freaking out over there. And I think a lot of it's going to come out. And I hope a lot of it does come out. Because it needs to. Let's see what else we have here in the news. By the way, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Always appreciate. It looks like Donald Trump seized another tanker here. Ghost ships ferrying illicit oil have sailed into Trump's crosshairs. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. It's playing a video for me. Let me get this off the screen. There you go. You guys could probably hear the video, I would imagine, huh? Like, hey, Brad, I hear something. What's that noise? Now, when you go to Fox News, it plays a video. And we'll get this up on the screen for all of you. I guess it will be an egg and onion bagel with coffee. Got to hit the store soon. What the heck? I jumped into the chat at the wrong time. Keith says, we celebrate January 6th. All fun and balloons and dinner. Jeez, release, dude. I do not celebrate January 6th. I am not one of those. I think it was very stupid. I think there are a bunch of idiots who raided the Capitol. They're adults. I don't know what adult would think that's a good idea, by the way. Like whenever I see something kind of going crazy, I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to leave this situation. I'm not going to have any involvement in that. That ain't my thing. Alrighty. Well, ghost ships. Trump takes aim at the Shadow Oil empire. And this story is barely making a ripple in the mainstream press, which should give you kind of like an idea of the magnitude of it, because that means they're trying to conceal something that's very important. And if you recall, Trump seized an oil tanker not too long ago, and now he's doing it again. What you have here is the Trump administration off the coast of Venezuela seized a tanker seizure. Basically, again, I told you last time that him seizing these oil tankers doesn't just affect Venezuela, because most of Venezuela's revenue comes from oil itself, or at least energy. And this is going to have ripple effects into Russia, Iran, China, Venezuela, obviously. And it puts a chokehold on a lot of these energy because they're eliciting oil through these back channels, I guess is how you would phrase it, maybe. And that's illegal. It's not supposed to be happening. And all of this is to keep afloat some of this oil is going to terrorist organizations. Obviously, it's going to Iran, but it's also keeping the Venezuelans kind of afloat over there. But there is a ghost ship that Trump has in his crosshairs. On December 10th, President Trump confirmed that the United States seized a tanker named the Skipper off the Venezuelan coast. And they didn't just board it, man. They seized this bad boy. According to the White House, the ship was carrying Venezuelan crude oil in defiance of U.S. sanctions, oil that would have eventually been sold to keep the Maduro regime alive. And then came the part that really matters. The Trump administration announced that the United States is going to keep the oil for ourselves, suckers. Old school Pirates of the Caribbean type of seizure. But what are ghost ships? Because there's horror movies that are ghost ships where it's like there's nobody on board. It's just a ship that's just going off by itself. It's like that old ship that's been lost 30, 40 years ago. And everyone's like, well, what happened to that ship? All the sailors are gone. And then, 100 years later, the ship just starts coming into port. They're like, that's the lost ship that was gone in like 1910. Nobody's ever seen it. It's all rusted, but it's there. That's what people think ghost ships are. Right? They really think it's something dramatic. But surprisingly, it's actually worse. I guess how you frame it. I'm trying to keep you guys listening, These are ordinary looking tankers that operate inside a deliberately hidden system. So they sail under foreign flags. They constantly change their names. Ship ownership happens through these shell companies. They love to disable their tracking responders, their transponders. They also conduct mid-sea oil transfers. And they obviously, we covered this last time, they falsify their shipping records like no other. The result is a floating shell game is all this is. And oil leaves Venezuela or it leaves Iran. Ownership disappears. You get the cargo being relabeled. And by the time it reaches its destination, which is often China, the trail is basically intentionally cold. You can't really follow it. There's too much of a spider web happening. This is kind of, if I was to make a stupid analogy, but there is one to be had here, kind of like the Biden family corruption. There are so many spider webs that even if you had the best auditors on it 24/7 would take years, if not decades, to unravel that whole spider web of following the money. It's too difficult. And it's the same thing here. Some are calling it industrial scale sanctions evasion. And you have a massive shadow fleet. And they're saying there's about 1,000 ships doing this, you guys. This is not a small thing that the media is covering up. It's not a small thing the Democrat Party don't want to talk about. This thing is massive. Experts are estimated that roughly 1,000 ghost ships are operating globally. I mean, let that sink in. This isn't like a few bad actors. It's not like a little small dent in the market. This is a parallel oil market. Benjamin Jensen from the Center of Strategic and International Studies put it bluntly. He said this isn't just about Venezuela. This is a global system designed to undermine U.S. sanctions, fund hostile regimes, circumvent international law, and keep dictators solvent. And until now, it actually worked because Joe Biden turned a blind eye to this. This has been going on for a while. So why does this hit Venezuelans harder than any sanction? Well, Venezuela isn't just an oil exporter, it's a petrostate, which we covered before. As I mentioned, oil accounts for somewhere in the range of like 80 to 90% of its export revenue, which is bonkers. Anybody that knows anything about business is you don't even want 10% of your revenue coming from one client or one thing. Or one, I mean, it all comes from one industry, which would be this export revenue on oil. It would be from the oil industry, but you get what I mean. Is like, that's where all your revenue is going to be coming from practically. I mean, if you wanted to starve out a country, all you would do is go in there and bomb all the oil areas. I mean, that completely chokes out the country and you're done. The backbone of government funding, and it's the regime's political survival. And I think this partly has to do with there's a revival of getting rid of these commie bastards down there in South America, which you're seeing with all these elections recently. But I think Donald Trump knows that he doesn't have to go in and put boots on the ground. He just has to choke out the Venezuelan government. And at some point, there's going to be an uprising by the Venezuelan people, and they're going to want a regime change. So Donald Trump doesn't actually have to go bomb anybody. He doesn't have to put boots on the ground. All he has to do is create chaos, and chaos is going to cripple, I think, with this 4D chess maneuver, not just the Maduro regime, but I think this is going to have effects, again, on the Russians who need that energy, the Iranians who want to still support these terror proxy groups, which is going to hit them pretty hard. This has other effects. And Donald Trump, through all of this, is trying to create a more safer Western hemisphere where now we control half the globe. It's a pretty remarkable strategy that I think is taking place. Very rarely do I give you my opinion. But if you didn't see our prior episode on Donald Trump's 4D chess move, with this whole Venezuelan oil tanker debacle, taking over the airspace, not allowing anything in and out without extra precautions. You're missing it, man. And I think a lot of people are missing this. Either I am really, really wrong or I am really, really right. And I think I might be really, really right, but I don't know. Only time will tell. We'll figure it out. Okay. They'll come at me. We'll see. You take away the oil revenue. You don't just weaken Maduro again. You destabilize the entire structure holding him in power. That's why even a single interdiction matters. And also there was another one from what I heard. And as Jensen explained, anything that disrupts oil smuggling is a direct threat to the regime itself. As I mentioned, this is pressure without boots on the ground. So what are Democrats going to do about it? He's not doing anything. He's seizing ships. And by the way, it's making oil cheaper for us. Look, gas prices are down. Yeah, but matter of fact, let me see if I can find that for you. So free. I mean, I'm happy for all of you guys. Let me see if I can find that image here really quick. Look at this. Look at this. 38 U.S. states with gas prices under $3 a gallon. Do you kind of notice anything with the states that are in white? You can't really blame Nevada and Arizona. I'll tell you why in a moment. Well, let me just tell you why now. They kind of rely on California. So it does impact them greatly. There's a lot of what do you call that? Blue states. Yeah, Democrat ran states. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, there's a common theme with that whole thing, isn't there? They don't want to acknowledge that. Yeah, don't worry though. California has the 4th largest economy in the world, is what we're told. Gavin's doing great, except record homeless, record illegal immigration, record crime, record gas prices, record taxation on your people. But don't worry, 4th largest economy. That's like some guy punching you in the face multiple times saying, hey, he's a good guy. What a bunch of idiots. What a bunch of idiots. Oh, God, there's so many. Trump's strategy with this whole thing, a part of it is following the money. It's not just about 1 ship or 2 ships or 3 ships. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt made it very clear in a press conference. The skipper is not a one-off. The vessel is undergoing forfeiture. Federal investigators are on board and crew members are being interviewed. Evidence is being seized. And the translation of all of that is, this is an intelligence gathering. This is one of those things where you invade the German bunker and you find out where all the other bunkers are and what the hell's going on here. Trump isn't just stopping these ships from moving stuff. He's mapping a network. And once you understand the routes, the shell companies, the ports, the kind of the middlemen, what you can do is dismantle the system piece by piece. And when you dismantle that system piece by piece, it has major global ramifications. And like I said, a major disruption down there in Venezuela. And China is not a silent player here. Here's the part no one really talks about. Again, China is the largest importer of Iranian oil. They're the 2nd largest buyer of the Russians' crude and a major end destination for Venezuelan oil. Much of it arrives via ghost ships. Do you kind of see again how this is a massive thing that doesn't just stranglehold South America down there, but also the Chinese and Russians, who are not our friends. They are our adversaries. And this means that China benefits from that sanctions invasion. They're always trying to find some sort of loophole, right? They can't just create their own technology and actually just do things on their own anymore. I mean, the last great thing they really created was gunpowder. Anything beyond that, they just steal it from everybody, mostly us. And they say, oh, look what we made. Yeah, no, you just stole it. You just stole that. That was ours. Yeah, you haven't done anything productive. Matter of fact, the things that you have done, like COVID-19, was probably the worst thing that's happened to anybody coming out of China in quite some time, other than communism. By the way, Mao wasn't even that long ago. We're spinning off into some other stuff. China props up on sanction regimes. It gets discounted energy from all this. And while the West pretends this isn't happening, Trump is going in and he's making a big thing of it all. And which is a good thing. Trump's move isn't just about Latin America. It's about a signal to Beijing. It's a signal to Moscow. It's a signal to the Iranians. I don't remember what the Iranian capital is. What's going to happen here? Like, what do we expect to take place going forward? Benjamin Jensen hinted at what's next. You're going to see more seizures, more interdictions, and more financial choke points. And recent president actually backs this up. If you looked at earlier this year, German authorities seized a tanker linked to Russian oil after it broke down in the Baltic Sea. And it was flagged as Panama flagged, previously renamed multiple times. Now you guys see where I'm getting this from. And carrying, get this, $45 million worth of crude. It's the same playbook that the Venezuelans are doing. It's the same shadow fleet, by the way. It's just a whole different coast. That's it. And all this goes way beyond oil because sanctions aren't moral statements. They're economic weapons. And weapons don't work if you refuse to use them. And for years, enforcement was inconsistent, politicized, avoided, undermined by these global elites that want to dictate everything for us. So they get to break the law. But when we break the law, well, something happens to us, but not them. And Trump's approach is completely different because Trump is blunt. Trump is transactional. He's unapologetic. I'm going to seize your ship, Maduro. It's mine. Can we have our ship back, Donald? No, you can't. I'm taking the oil. Thank you. Attention to this matter. Under Donald Trump, if sanctions are violated, the United States is going to take your ship. We're just going to take your ship. See, I said the S-H-I-T word, but I used it with ship there again. Thought you might like that. Well, they're going to take your cargo and they're going to dismantle your whole damn operation because we're back, baby. America is back because we actually have men in the driver's seat. We have alphas called Trump, called JD Vance, called Pete Hegseth, maybe Marco Rubio. Like we have actual men leading the brigade again, not these men who think they're women like you saw with the Biden administration. Quite literally, we had, don't get me going. I don't want to, you know what? We spin off. I don't want to do a rant. We got news to cover here. What the heck is this? Something's popping up on my screen. Get off my screen. Hold on a second. What is this? How do you get rid of this? I don't want to see more. There, some top news story thing popped up on my screen over here. It's covered my whole screen. I couldn't see you guys. Holy ship, Brad. Exactly. It's from China. Sir, don't you think that's a little racist? No, it's from China. Again, it's not a naval stunt. It's not some freaking photo op, even though they tried to make it sort of. I mean, it was cool seeing the Blackhawks flying, the guys, going on the tightrope, coming down. I think you're going to see an economic war, and this economic war is specifically targeted to these hostile regimes. And I don't think you'll see an invasion like the Democrats keep saying. He's trying to start World War III. I don't think you're going to see some sort of occupation. And this is what people are telling me. People, these psycho lefties are like, he just wants to invade it. He's taking a page out of Bush's playbook like he did with Iraq. He's just going to go in and seize all the oil. Maybe. That's totally possible. But I don't think so, because Trump is trying to create peace everywhere. It would kind of be a little bit silly of him to go into Venezuela when he's trying to create peace around the globe everywhere else. But at some point, you got to do what you got to do. I don't think there's going to be an endless war. I think there's just going to be some pressure. He's going to do some sort of enforcement, as you're already seeing. And I think there's going to be consequences, as you're seeing. For years, ghost ships operated in the shadows. Hence why they're called ghost ships. And through these ghost ships, they're financing these dictators. They're financing terrorism, which Joe Biden and the Democrat Party seem to love to do, and adversaries while the world looked the other way. And now they're being dragged into the light. And I think it's only the beginning. And a lot of regimes are about to find out how fragile their power really is. And when put all your eggs in one basket and Donald Trump comes in with his big old American boots, baby, and steps on your damn basket. Well, now you got no eggs. Now they're splattered everywhere. And Donald Trump's the one that did it. Not Joe Biden, not the Democrat Party, none of it. And I love it. Take their stuff. Take it all. Who you going to call? Ship busters. Freaking Dave. Dave's been drinking in the morning. What's going on, Tim? Good to see you. Timothy Bibb. All righty. Well, Trump's economy is hot right now. 64,000 new jobs and wages are up. This just came out not too long ago. Let's take a peek at this.
Yes, October and November for the big jobs report. The only thing is it's not Friday. Here we go. November's number comes in at 64,000. 64,000 on non-farm. And if we look at average hourly earnings, they are up 0.1% year over year, up 3.5. Yes, October.
Love that. Love that. Excuse me. Ugh, good on Trump. We have a few clips from Scott Jennings here. We always like to do a palate cleanser. If you think Donald Trump is going to be graded as one of the greatest presidents of all time, I'm going to begin to wonder if you're smoking crack. Okay, well, let's see what she has to say. Let's see here.
Do you think Donald Trump is going to get graded as one of the greatest presidents of all time? I'm going to begin to wonder if you're smoking crack.
Chip O'Neill never thought Ronald Reagan would be rated one of the greatest presidents of all time. And they got along and they did wonderful things together.
Love it or hate it, he is the most consequential political force in the modern era. He is the strongest party boss either party has ever seen. He got more votes each time he appeared on the ballot. He has people that will only vote for him. Now, that's something Obama had as well. He had people that would only vote for him. That puts you in a different realm. I mean, when you're that kind of and two-term presidents often have this, but you cannot deny, he is the most consequential political force of the modern era of either party.
I don't want to deny that because...
There's also a clip here. Let me find it for you. I did repost it. If you don't follow me on X, make sure you head over there and follow me. We had almost 100 people watching us on X yesterday, by the way. We had a lot of people watching us on Twitter. We had more people watching us on Twitter than Rumble, YouTube, and Kick combined. So it's always fascinating to see where our viewership is coming from. There was a Scott Jennings clip here. This kind of talks about the Maduro one. Since I have it right here, I'm going to play it for you. I wanted to play it. I couldn't find it, but now I can. It's about what's going on with the hemisphere that I've kind of spoke of before.
Our own hemisphere. You and I are in agreement. Maduro is a thug. He is a crime lord. He is a terrible person, and he does need to go. It's in our own backyard. If we do not police it, who will? Not to mention the fact that you made the case. Fentanyl does cause deaths, but there are other drugs that cause massive harm to thousands of American families. If we are not going to clean up the Western Hemisphere,
wait, Scott, how do you reconcile what you just said with him pardoning the former president of Honduras, who helped bring an unfathomable 400 tons of cocaine into the United States? How do you reconcile that?
I don't, other than he's not the current president, I don't.
He was serving 45 years in federal prison.
All I know is that you have boats in our hemisphere with drugs and precursors of drugs on the boats, and the deterrence.
Yeah, but you can't tell me that he's deterring drug interdiction when he is pardoned.
Police are.
So you got that one. And by the way, I should throw this at you. I'm kind of throwing a massive curveball at you, but Donald Trump yesterday labeled fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, just to let you all know. And I did a video. That's why you want to follow me over on TikTok as well. We get millions of views on TikTok. You would have saw that news as well. So where's that clip with Scott Jennings? Right here. I love this one. Here we go.
You do realize that Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump, right?
I know.
So to say that it was decimated...
Boy, she looked great in the White House, didn't she?
Well, she did.
Can we play that again, please? Scott. Smart ass.
You do realize that Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump, right?
I know.
So to say that it was decimated...
Boy, she looked great in the White House, didn't she?
Well, she did.
Oh, God. This says it all right there. Look at his face. That is the screen grab right there. That is so funny. Yeah, she looked real great in the White House. Oh, whoops. Oh, Scott, he's a national treasure, man. He really is. That is the look right there. Scott does it again. Oh, God, look at his reaction. He's like, oh, shit. Oh, God, that's rough. I don't think there's a better clip that we could play to end the show off with. We're going to leave it right there. We're going to be back here later today at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for another episode of Dark MAGA. If you're not familiar with Dark MAGA, by the way, this is our last day of Dark MAGA being closed off. So come join us. If you have Rumble Premium, if you don't, well, you got to get Rumble Premium. Rumble is our main platform that supports and promotes free speech. So we'd love for you to come join us. By the way, shout out to everybody that's been doing the raids. with us, going in and promoting the show and kind of engaging with other chats. There's good people. There's a lot of patriots and conservatives around there. So thank you to everybody that's been joining the raids with us. We have a book called Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America, folks. It is a timely book. It's at baldbrad.com. Again, that's www.baldbrad.com. If you head over there, you can pick up your book. Let me see if it was, they always do this, right? The publisher always puts it on like some sort of crazy sale, and I have no involvement in that. Let me see what it's at right now. Yo. The Kindle version is 72% off right now. What are they doing to me? Hardcover's 37% off, and you get paperback. Actually, paperback sold out. Wow. Okay. Well, people must really love my book. Paperback is sold out on Amazon. Hardcover is also out of stock. Holy crap. All right. Well, you get some new and used. Wow. Hold on a second. We're going to make sure you guys get your copies. Hold on. Everybody settled down. I didn't know we're sold out. Jeez. I'm going to give you another. I'm going to send you a link straight to my publisher and straight to the book itself. You could buy it straight from the publisher. Yeah. I don't know why what's going on. People love my book. Hold on. I'm going to link you guys the publisher. It must be good if people are buying it up. That's why I bet you want to get it. All right, where are we at here? And here, you could get it here. I'll send you guys a paperback. It's just cheaper. But if you want to, there's a link for all of you. Liberty Hill Publishing. This is what the website looks like. You can get it straight from the publisher here. You could they have hardcover, which is a dust jacket, and the paperback. It's not as cheap as it would be on Amazon, but if you want to get it, like I said, it's up there. It's almost 5 stars. By the way, we actually have a perfect 5 stars, but people on the side said that I'm a Nazi, and pushing Nazi propaganda, which is crazy because I actually smacked the crap out of the Nazis. Beth says she wants a hardcover copy. Well, right there, you get a hardcover right there, down at the bottom, right here, dust jacket. I keep trying to get it, and it's always sold out. Yeah, they go quick, which is crazy. I mean, I actually need to look at it because I think a lot of people have been buying the book, clearly. But get it from the publisher. The publisher will get you one. So that's why you have the link straight there. Straight from the publisher, straight from the horse's mouth. Alrighty, well, thank you to everybody that always supports the show. Appreciate you. We'll be back here today at 4 p.m. for Dark MAGA. God bless you. Always appreciate it. Hit that like button, folks, and well, peace.